You know what, Ken? Doesn't get any better than this. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Good morning. Ken, I want to thank you for that truly over-generous words of introduction. More importantly, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your solidarity. I got to tell you, I'm very, very proud to call you my friend, to call you my brother. You're one of the best trade unionists I know, and one of the best leaders I know, and one of the best friends that I've ever had. Thank you, brother. Georgie, thanks for everything, buddy. Great leader. You know, this union's always been blessed with great leadership, and you're in great hands right now with these leaders, I can tell you that. Your union sort of rises above a lot of the other ones because of you and because of your leadership. Just do me one favor. Give your leadership one round of applause for me. You know, Ken, I don't think there's any union that fights as well or as far above its weight class as the painters and allied trades do. Your strength and your power really offer a testament to activism and to credibility, because every time IUPAT says something, you back it up with action. You not only talk the talk, you walk the walk. And let me just say how much I admire the work that your members do. I get to see them every day, every single day. At the AFL-CIO headquarters in Washington, we're wrapping up a major project. It was a top-to-bottom energy retrofit. And we had an outstanding crew of glazers there. Jimmy Williams, I know you're here, and I know you're proud of those glazers. They replaced every window in our building to make the whole place more energy efficient. So we had them for a better part of a year. And I'll tell you, I've never met a more charming group of workers. Sometimes very colorful, sometimes a bit off color. Felt like I was back at the mine. They made me feel right at home. They're outside my office, and they'd be talking about things, and I got to tell you, it made me feel at home. They really are great guys. Now, that project really brought home to everybody who works at the AFL-CIO headquarters how critical good jobs are and how important it is for all of us to find every way possible to put people to work and to strengthen our pension funds with strong investments that create jobs. And we're not just sitting back telling bankers to invest our money, we're actually doing it as well. But whether your members hang drywall or apply auto paint or install floor coverings, whatever the job is, the quality of work is always the same. It's the very best. And the painters and allied trades deliver because of your top-of-the-line training program, your innovation, your skill, and your tireless work ethic. You did a great job at the AFL-CIO headquarters, but I got to tell you, I'm just as excited about the other good news that I'm actually hearing. Hours of work are beginning to increase. People are getting back to work. Now, we're not where we need to be, but we're heading in the right direction, especially if we can convince Congress to start funding American infrastructure on the scale that we need so that we can rebuild this great country and get our members to work on the bridges and overpasses and pipelines. That's how we're going to create new jobs, to get painters back to work and then back to the pre-level and then above pre-level, pre-recession levels. See, we've got a long way to go to turn America around. But here's the good news. The conversation in America is changing. All over this country, people are talking about economic inequality. People who never spoke the words before. The public is beginning to debate big issues like wages good enough so that we can really live and raise a family on them if we want to. The public's debating collective bargaining. They're talking about rights on the job. And we've been wanting this conversation for a long, long time. And guess what? We're winning that conversation on issue after issue that we stand for, that we fight for, that we brought to this great country of ours. People are supporting us in large, large numbers. People like the idea of raising wages. And let me tell you something. It's not going to be easy for us, but we're going to turn the tide. Because you see, we're all about raising wages. We're about unionism. We honor the dignity of labor when we stand together for a bigger share of what we create. That's how we'll build a movement that's big enough to lift America's working families, big enough to rebuild the American middle class. We did it once, and we'll do it again. Because unionism works, brothers and sisters. The IUPAT builds strong careers and strong families and strong communities and a strong future, a bold future for the United States. And we know something. We know that the best way to win fair pay is a union contract. The best way to win retirement security is a union contract. The best way for a better tomorrow so you can give your family a decent life and health care and good retirement, it all comes down to a union contract. You see, we live in the richest nation on the face of the earth, at its most rich point in time, and a decent life. A decent life for every working America really isn't too much to ask for, because we're the workers of America. From the warehouse to the factory floor, we do it all. We paint the bridges and the ships. We carry the load, we answer the call, we do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost. See, we wake our country up every single day and we tuck her to bed. And when she needs defending, they come to us to defend the country. And we won't be turned aside, and we won't be faced down, and we will not be denied, and we will not be shut up. This is our country, and it's time that we took it back for the workers who make this country work. You see, brothers and sisters, we're all too familiar with the story of the past 40 years. We know how productivity rose, but our wages froze, which meant virtually all the wealth that we created by our growing economy has gone to the richest 1%, and in most cases to the richest 1/10 of 1%. See, our economy doesn't work when work doesn't pay. Household expenditures make up 70% of the American economy. And that's how raising wages will create jobs. Because when we do well, America does well. We buy goods, we buy services to improve our lives. We create demand. And when we create the demand, corporations have to hire more workers to meet that demand. It's called a virtuous cycle, and it's the exact opposite of a race to the bottom. It's the foundation of a strong economy built on raising wages, not credit card debt or asset bubbles. See, America is tired, sick and tired of losing middle-class jobs. We're done with the downward spiral. People are starting to understand the connection between good jobs and a strong economy. More than 70% of American voters support raising the minimum wage to at least $10.10 an hour. You know, I got to thinking about that, Ken. You know, it's been so long since the minimum wage last went up. Sarah Palin was still the governor of Alaska the last time we got a raise in the minimum wage. And the last time the minimum wage went up for tipped workers, by the way, tipped workers make $2.13 an hour. The last time it went up was back in 1991. Bill and Hillary Clinton still lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, the last time we raised the tip wage. So we're going to fight to raise the minimum wage because work should lift people out of poverty, not trap them in poverty. And poll after poll shows a powerful majority says that the growing inequality in America is bad for the country. And you know, Ken, we do polling at the AFL-CIO as well. Recently, we asked a group of voters if they agreed with this simple statement. We need to make sure that all of us, not just the CEOs, get our fair share in our economy. And when we asked those making less than $50,000 a year, 2 out of 3 voters, 66% said, yes, that's right. We need to make sure all of us, not just CEOs, get our fair share. And when I first looked at that 66%, I said, you know, I'm not overly impressed with that number. Whatever happened to that other third? But 66% is a pretty high number. Guess what? Here's the kicker. Guess who we asked? We asked nobody but registered Republican voters that question. And they said by 2/3, yep, all of us ought to benefit from the economy, not just the CEOs. Now here's what that means. It means a solid majority of working people of every stripe share the same basic challenges and the same basic hopes and the same basic dreams. And we recognize that economics are at the heart of our problem. You see, some of us may have different philosophies. We may look different, or sound different, or even think differently. But in important ways, we share the same values. We all need a job to pay our bills. We're all united by the circumstances of our lives. And this is where the program of the painters and allied trades are breaking ground, because you're building powerful connections between like-minded people. And I really admire and respect those programs and what you're doing, how you're trying to build from the grassroots up. You're talking to all kinds of people, talking to union members, talking to non-union people, talking to people who never heard of unions. And whether we're talking about CORE, the Community Organization for Real Economics in St. Louis, or about charitable outreach in places like Baltimore, or your electoral political work just about everywhere, we're talking about the same thing, about building power from the ground up, about bringing working people together. See, you get things done here. Your political action is like a well-oiled machine, and now you're building out your presence all across your communities. Think about this. When we were the center of our communities, we were growing and vibrant, and no one dreamed of attacking us. When we walked away from that for whatever reason or reasons, people started attacking us. We didn't grow. We didn't have the support of our friends and neighbors, people that rely on us and our jobs for their living. See, I know you brought together in Washington all your local leaders to do grassroots organizing. They workshopped plans and they workshopped priorities, and then you send everybody back to tap in to your activism and your membership so you could build and you could grow your spirit of activism even stronger. That's how unionism works. That's doing it the right way. And I want you to know that your caliber of activism is spreading all across our labor movement. At the AFL-CIO, we're strengthening our state federations of labor and our central labor councils. We're making them more effective, more capable of running campaigns, whether it's political, legislative, organizing, or collective bargaining campaigns. And believe me, when we make those CLCs and state feds stronger, that one thing by itself could completely transform our movement. We're joining together with allies just like you are to build real partnerships in ways that we never have before. We're a mainstream movement. We're a growing movement. We're a powerful movement. And we're beginning to act like it, because 80% of the American public agrees with our values, brothers and sisters, and yet we've allowed the 20% to put us in a corner and make us act defensive somehow. Like what we believe in isn't what the American public believes in. Like the values that we have and that we fight for aren't the values that built America and built the middle class. You see, it's up to all of us, to you and me and each one of us, to make the voices of America, our America, heard in the workplace and in our national life. And we're really doing that. And here's the good news. Right now, power and hope for working people are rising. See, we're on the right path, brothers and sisters. A groundswell is growing, and it keeps getting bigger, and it's strong, and it keeps getting stronger. This isn't something that we cooked up in Washington, D.C., and it didn't come from Wall Street. We hear it in the mall, in conversations between security guards and salespeople. We hear it on the morning bus when domestic workers get on a bus to go to the part of town that they'll never get to live in. We hear it among Walmart workers who connect on Facebook and see how power grows when they stand together. We hear it with the postal workers' boycott of Staples. We hear it with the Long Island rail workers when they said, look, we don't want to strike, but if you don't get your sorry butt back to the table and negotiate with us in good faith, we sure as hell will strike. It's a movement to raise wages. It's a growing movement to raise wages so that all of us, every last American, can live a better life. See, we'll stand together to raise wages for all. And we'll fight for painters and day laborers and bakers and security guards and drivers and teachers. We'll march together for working families, for good pay. We'll stand together for a strong future, a bold future for each other. And we won't back down or back up, and we won't shut up until we win a new day for the American dream. And we'll shout from Florida all across America, and we'll show how much good raising wages will do to create the economy that we want, that we need, that we deserve, and that will serve America in the best interest of every American and not just the very thin core at the top. You see, brothers and sisters, we have some big things to do as a country. We have to put our people back to work. We have to restore democracy. We have to build a 21st century infrastructure. We have to end mass incarceration. Today, right now, as we sit here, there's a young kid in cities across this country, and his parents or her parents work for minimum wage. They work hard every day, and they're not making it. And that child's looking at his parents who work hard every day and are still living in poverty. And on the other end of the block, there's a guy standing there in a new suit with a wad of money that big and a new car, selling dope, selling women, doing things like that on the easy side. And that boy has to look at both of those decisions. Work hard, honest, good hard work all your life and live in poverty. Or go the other route and live a life that seems high, even if it's for a short period of time. You see, brothers and sisters, no child should be faced with that choice. Every child ought to have a chance to get ahead, regardless of what their mother or father do for a living, regardless of the color of their skin or who they worship. Every child ought to have a chance to get ahead, and work ought to pay for every last one of them. Give them that opportunity. You see, we've got ideas on how to build American manufacturing and how to strengthen our community and how to build a real tax base so that a company can't change its country of origin and skip out on its taxes. We're going to invest in American jobs, not throw them away. And we want labor law reform so that all workers can stand together and bargain for a better life. And listen, I know that when I talk about labor law, there's a couple of types of leaders out there. There's some leaders that say, oh, there's Trumka again. Pie in the sky. We can't ever do that. Every time you run across one of those leaders, I want you to say, as long as we listen to you and sit on our asses, you're right. We'll never change this country. We'll take the crumbs that they scrape off the edge of the table, but I'm not willing to sit by and take those crumbs. I want to stand up and fight fight for a better country. And let me tell you one other thing. As labor leaders, I think we've learned some hard lessons, some really hard political lessons about labor law reform. Yet I want you to listen very closely to what I have to say. We're stronger because of the lessons that we learned. We're more independent because of the lessons we learned. We're more focused and more disciplined and more creative and ultimately more powerful because of those hard political lessons that we learned. And all across our labor movement, we're looking to fight for our values, not for any political party. You see, we don't work for candidates. We're not building power for the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. We're building power for working people, pure and simple. We're looking at the long view, and we'll work with anybody who will work with us. And we're not afraid of holding anybody's feet to the fire. Working families need results. We don't need excuses. We need people that will stand up and advocate for working people and collective bargaining and an economy that works for all of us. And I'll tell you, we've got a long memory, and we're not going to hold our nose and endorse Democrats just because they have a D next to their name. That's not good enough. That won't happen. We deserve better than that. We deserve people that stand and fight and aren't ashamed to say, I support unions, and I support collective bargaining, and I support working people. And we're looking close. And we're asking the hard questions of every candidate who comes to us and wants our support. And one of the questions we want every candidate to answer is, do you support workers? Do you support unions? Do you support our right to collectively bargain for a better life? Do you believe in pensions, that we ought to have them and they ought to be secure? Will you grow our economy, not shrink it? Will you raise our wages? And I promise to you, I swear to you, nobody will work harder or smarter or longer to elect leaders who make the right commitments. And nobody will work harder or longer to defeat those who don't, regardless of political party. You see, this electoral season, I have a big ask of each one of you. I want you to do this with me. I want you to lead with me. I want you to work like you've never worked before. Be the leaders who lead by example. Be the very first to knock on doors. Be the very first to make phone calls at the phone bank. I'm going to be doing it, and I'm going to be asking every leader to do the same, to lead by example. And when we do, we'll motivate our volunteers. We'll strengthen our activists. We'll help each other connect with more working class voters. We'll get more working families to the polls, because if we want the policies that we need, if we want all of us to get a fair share, then we need the right leaders in our states and for this country. Then we've got to engage. And we've got to turn out our people. And when I say our people, yes, I mean our members and our families. But I also mean like-minded folks in our neighborhoods and in our communities. The people you go to church with, the people you see at football games, soccer games, the people that you see in town at the grocery store, all of them. We got to be educating them and motivating them and let them know that the economy is not like the weather. It doesn't just happen. The economy is made up of a set of rules, and those rules decide who wins and who loses. And those rules are made by the people that we elect. And here's the best part. After the polls close on Election Day, we'll have a stronger network of activists and local leaders ready to mobilize and pressure our local and our state and our national leaders for the policies that we need. And we'll stand ready to support our organizing for the union members of tomorrow. Standing together, working people will change this country, our country, America the beautiful. See, we're lifting up lives, and we won't settle for less. We want a bold future, and that's what we'll get. We're scrambling and reaching for a little more hope. We have a vision that we're going to make it real, because when all of us pitch in, that shared responsibility and that shared sacrifice, when we do what it takes, we win. And what do we want? Well, it's what everybody wants. It's the chance to have a good job, to work hard for a decent life, to give our kids a better life, to have some security, to have health care, to protect us when we need it. And to get it, we're going to have to stand together, because we're stronger together. We'll work for it, brothers and sisters. We'll stand for it together, each of us. Painters with teachers, letter carriers with hotel workers, taxi cab drivers with mine workers, with solidarity, real solidarity, where your picket line is my picket line, and I honor your picket line first. And don't ask the damn question about what it's about or anything else. When a worker's fighting, I'm standing with that worker, my picket line, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, all day, every day, for as long as it takes, to win together, to raise wages, to grow together, to bring out the best in ourselves and each other, for the America that we can have, will have, and must have. Keep fighting, brothers and sisters. Keep fighting. God bless you.